Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it is all ball all the time. You are here with your host, Sean and Isaiah. This is episode number 70, and today we're going to be talking about the Timberwolves and then Kawhi Leonard. But before all that, as always, Isaiah, how you feeling today, man?
I'm conflicted. The Rockets have me conflicted. This is this is unrelated to the topics we're talking about today, but I just had to bring it up. How do we beat the Suns and then turn around and lose to the Warriors the very next day?
You know, I really thought the Rockets were kind of turning that corner after we won those two games and we pulled it out versus the Suns somehow. But after that Warriors game last night, there's still a bunch of glaring issues, and I really could go into that for a long time, and I'm just gonna point one out just because why not? But we have to start with the pick and roll early, and we have to stop playing iso ball. It was pretty frustrating because to start the game we were down once again like 10 points after 3 minutes, and the only person to have points was Şengün. And most of those points came off pick and rolls that we were able to get the ball to Şengün to. And yet we still went away from it, and we tried to have Green or Jabari just kind of do their thing in the ISO, which wasn't working. But I'll leave that alone because those aren't the topics at hand. Unless you would like to comment a little bit more on that.
No, it's fine. We could save it for a Rockets episode.
All right. So which one would you like to start with first? Do you want to talk about the Timberwolves, or do you want to talk about Kawhi Leonard?
Let's go ahead and talk about the Timberwolves, because this is a team that has completely underperformed. More so your expectations than mine, because I didn't have very high expectations for them. But I at least thought that they were going to be a bottom lock for the playoffs, or like tippy top of the play-in. And currently they are barely in the play-in. Actually, they have slipped out of the play-in now. So the Timberwolves. So the question is, what do you think the Timberwolves' biggest problem is? So I'll let you go ahead and answer that question first.
So, okay, first off, I want to start by saying, yes, they are the 11th seed right now, but there is still a lot of season left. I still think they'll be able to make it I think they'll make it past the play-in.
Oh, yeah. No,
I don't even think they're going to be competing in the play-in. I think they'll actually make it to the 6th seed and higher.
Oh, that's a bold statement.
Is it a hot take?
Yeah, I think that's a hot take.
Okay. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I obviously don't have the expectations that I had them. You know, I don't have those expectations that I had for them at the beginning of the season when I put them in like the 5 seed or whatever. But, well, I mean, basically it's the same expectations, because now I'm saying they're either 6th seed or higher.
Yeah.
So I guess I contradicted myself. You know what? Maybe they are in the play-in. So the biggest problem that I've seen with the Timberwolves is Rudy Gobert's fit is one of them, and then they're not really playing team ball. For the fit, I think we've seen a lot of problems with him and Cat being on the floor at the same time. There's like one clip that I know has been kind of gone viral, and it's them like passing the ball back and forth to each other in the paint, and it's really funny. Also, I mean, Gobert's taken I guess you could say a quote unquote stats hit, and that was kind of expected, especially moving from Utah, where there was only one other real superstar, to where the Timberwolves now have kind of I guess you could say big four, if you're including D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a big 3.
Okay.
D'Angelo Russell, while he has turned it around, is still not having a very good season overall.
I mean, really, you could even look at them, like Russell and Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
they haven't been like fitting as well with the team either.
Mm-hmm. And you
And
see, I want to go ahead and just interject my answer since you're kind of on the subject of what my answer is. And
okay,
it's just the overall team chemistry. But you can go ahead and say what you're going to say before I get into that.
and I have to say the biggest spot though that's glaring, I guess you could say,
Mm-hmm.
is Jaden McDaniels' defense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing basically what, small forward, and that's supposed to be one of the better defensive positions on the court. And well, Jaden McDaniels is obviously way more offensive side than the defensive side. So maybe they could trade for a guy. I mean, they threw a lot of assets away for Gobert, but maybe they can cook something up to get some kind of defensive specialist, maybe like a Jay Crowder type of guy, to go ahead and play that small forward position. And I think that would clean up some of the issues that they've been having, except for the fit within Gobert and Towns.
And I think what you said there is funny though, because the stats, for, according to the people who actually calculate that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
are showing Jaden or Jay. I can't remember which one is on the Timberwolves. I think they have Jaden.
Jaden.
Yeah,
Jaden.
yeah, they have Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels is actually their best defender in their starting lineup.
Really?
Yes, according to the stats, and even some of the footage that I've seen, he does good on like switches, and he
Mm-hmm.
does a good job bothering like shots with his length.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it says a lot that you think a glaring issue is his defense when he's their best defender. So that says a lot about this team.
Well, okay, so I guess you could say this. Their issues are so spread out within the team that it kind of like spreads to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so like when one person or when the whole team's doing bad, one person's highlight really doesn't stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like it's kind of like, the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Say Jalen Green's having, for the most part, a good to average game, and the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the team's doing bad. He really doesn't stand out compared to everyone else because of the whole the momentum, I guess you could say, for the team isn't there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not really there for him either.
You see, and really, I think it's more so just a matter of how great someone is doing, because when you think about it, that only applies to like this situation here with the Timberwolves, or like the example you gave of Jalen Green, or really when any one particular player on the Rockets does well. Because most of the time, especially with Jalen Green, like you used, when he has a really good game and we are losing terribly, it's because he shot awfully, even though his numbers were good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at somebody like Shea on the Thunder are by no means a great team.
Mm-hmm.
But when Shea is playing, he stands out every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more so just about what the player is doing and how well they're doing it, and not just, well, everybody else is bad, but and the team is bad, but look at this good thing.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: do you think that the Timberwolves sacrificing depth and obviously future picks for star power was the move that they should have made? Like looking back at it now, do you think they should have kept the depth? And do you think they would have been a better team so far this season if they did?
Okay, and here's where I'll just take this time to elaborate on my answer because it's kind of relevant to the question. And
Okay.
I say no, because I truly don't think that having the depth would have necessarily made this team better. Because
Mm.
the big problem with this team is their overall chemistry. It's like none of the big three or four, if you include D'Angelo Russell, really feel like a coherent team. Like, even when you look at them and individual duos, none of those duos even seem like they work on a two-man aspect. And then, just generally speaking, Cat has been one of the worst leaders in the league for a team. He comes out in a post-game interview talking about Anthony Edwards, joking about Popeyes, like that. Like, that is such a small detail to try and paint as an issue, but there's that. And then at the same time, he then labels himself as a vet and says he needs to be a better vet to Anthony Edwards, when I don't see Karl Anthony Towns as that guy. He's been injured way too many times to be trying to lecture anybody on how to better stay in shape and on the court. Because we can count career games and see how well he's doing in that category.
Okay, so that brings me up another question that I just, what you just said. Can someone be a vet or mentor to someone else if they're not even playing the same position or they don't have the same play style?
I say yes, but there's an asterisk there. You can be a vet, and even I would say, first of all, you can definitely be an off the court vet to anybody. Position doesn't matter about that. Now, where position does matter is coaching somebody on their on the court skills. Now, granted, Cat was talking about off the court leadership, but even on the court, you can still be a vet to somebody on the court, even if they're not playing the same position, if you've been around players who have played at that caliber that the player that you're trying to lead needs to meet. And even with the way the game is today, there's definitely cross-positional teaching that you can do that'll be useful. But I think the big thing there is you need to be a veteran caliber player in some aspect. Cat is not meeting that criteria in any way, shape, or form. He can't stay on the court. I mean, considering that he's out right now, I think it's pretty evident. When it comes to success, only time this team has really done something is last season with Patrick Beverley, and then the 2018, I believe it was, or probably further back, with Jimmy Butler. And so with that being said, Cat really hasn't done anything to cement himself as a player who should be trying to impose himself as a leader upon Anthony Edwards, who's arguably on his level based on the way they've both been playing this year. Neither one is looking spectacular. And so at that point, he's not meeting the proper criteria for veteran leadership, regardless of cross-positional teachings, on the court, off the court. None of that is even relevant because he's not meeting any criteria to be a veteran besides being in the league longer.
I mean, I've never really thought of Karl Anthony Towns as a leader or even a future leader. Like he I don't think he could be a leader at all.
Exactly.
I'll be honest. I think he's too soft of a player to be a leader. And like you said, his on the court availability isn't there. I think you kind of need a guy that's somewhat of a how could you put it? How could you word it? Like a Mikal Bridges. Like, obviously he's not the best player. He's not really vocal, but he isn't. I believe he's like the second longest active streak of consecutive games played or something like that, behind Kevon Looney. I think you need someone like that, someone who's always there for the team, always on the court. at least in my opinion, for someone who could be a real leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But would you like to go ahead and move on to the Kawhi Leonard discussion?
There's one last thing that I want to slide in here about this current topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the fact that I think what this team really should have done was they should have moved on from Cat. I know it's really tough to say, but I don't think Cat can be the player that they have him as on the team. They have him kind of on a pedestal of the Timberwolves as he's going to be one of the best Timberwolves ever, and he can be a leader for a contending team. But I think it's proving itself right now that Cat he may not be the only problem, but he is a problem.
All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and move on to the Kawhi Leonard discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way you brought it up to me was, let's get real about Kawhi Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
The way you say No, but what I was saying with that question is, it's no secret that Kawhi's on the court availability has been a major talking point for the past 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's time we take a look at this current season. We see that he's only played 5 games, and he didn't play that well in those 5 games. And I think we need to have a serious discussion about what Kawhi has left to provide to a team and what potential legacy he could have moving forward from here.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start by saying I think Kawhi Leonard still has a lot to offer to a team.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get it. He's obviously on the wrong side of 30 and coming off a pretty bad injury. But, and I really didn't consider this before the season started, and that's a reason why I had the Clippers so high up in the standings. But I'll be honest, I didn't think that he was going to have to get this much rest throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of scares me because I thought at this point he'd already be more into a groove, or at least playing most of the games, rather than sitting out other than the ones that you just said. I believe you said 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Kawhi still has a lot to offer, but I don't think it's going to be this year. And now I'm regretting putting the Clippers as high as I put them, because the whole Clippers team is not looking good. Aside from Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers are looking bad. And without Kawhi being able to, provide some kind of leadership or just his skill in general,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, even if he provided his, superstar level play, I don't think the Clippers are even close to where I put them.
And I'll have to agree with you on that. I definitely think that you oversold this Clippers team. You overestimated them.
I did. I bought into the hype, just like I did it with the Timberwolves team.
Yep. It's just funny that we're talking about these two teams. But yeah, man, because this whole Clippers team, like you said, has been underperforming, to keep it simple.
Mm.
And even when you look, it's odd because you'll look at the box score and you'll say, oh man, some of these guys are having pretty solid games, even with Kawhi and PG missing time. But it's not amounting to anything.
Mm. Do you think that Kawhi Leonard, at any point of his career, at least can go back to 80% of his prime? At least 80%, somewhere around there?
I don't know. I think that's a tough statement, a tough call to make. because all of that relies on him being able to actually stay on the court, which is that's something he's definitely not been able to do. And at that point, it's concerning because let's say he does come back, how long before he's out again, either with rest or getting re-injured? And all of this time that he's missing is going to have to force him to recondition every time he comes back. And it's just going to perpetually keep him beneath the level that he could be at because he's constantly working to try and get back to that level.
And, I really don't want to say this because of injuries, but a lot of it also isn't because of injuries. It's been just disappointment. But is the construction of the Clippers team around Kawhi and PG one of the most disappointing teams over the last couple of years?
Oh, without a doubt. If we really take a look at the teams in the league, and they're the teams with the major cores, the substantial cores that they built around. You have your Celtics, your Bucks, your Warriors, those types of teams, even the Suns, where they achieved high level success. So you give them their credit. Then you have your teams like the Nets, where they built this superstar core. Everybody had sky is the limit expectations, and they failed to reach them. Same thing applies to the 76ers. Joel Embiid is playing the best basketball he's played past couple of years, but then he can't get things right with Ben Simmons, and now him and James Harden have both missed time. James Harden more than Embiid, surprisingly. But now, what are they going to do? And it's concerning there. And then working our way back to the West, when you look at these other teams that have had injury issues, like the Nuggets, Jokic is still, he was at an MVP level, and even he was maintaining a 6th seed, just about. And now his guys come back, they're the 2 seed. But the Clippers, first and foremost, everybody had championship expectations for this team, and they had a rivalry with the Lakers as this big selling point for the Clippers. First of all, the whole rivalry thing has completely collapsed. That's become one of the biggest jokes, laughing stock storylines of the league. And then when you look at the championship aspirations, the closest they got was when Kawhi went down and PG just carried the team.
So I have to ask you, and I know we've talked about this before, and maybe your thoughts have changed, but the way I'm looking at this is maybe the Clippers organization says maybe we run it back one more time with both of them healthy. But do you think that they should wait that 1 year to get both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the court at the same time, with hopefully a core that they want around them? Or do you think that it's already time to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and hit the reset button?
I say that they should hit the reset button, and here's why. 2 main reasons, with the first one being that Kawhi and PG are both getting older. Their value is deteriorating because they cannot stay on the court. So at this point, you're not going to get a good enough return on investment with these guys. If you try and, let's keep waiting the next year. Let's wait 1 more year and see what we can get. Because what happens if it's just a repeat next year? Then congratulations, you just wasted another year. And then on a similar note, if we delay it another year, what's to stop them from, come on, all right, well, next year's the year they'll be healthy. Okay, next
Right.
year they'll be, and it's like, at what point do we just accept that them being healthy as a team for a full year is just not going to happen?
Right. I mean, I have to say it does sound very enticing to say, hey, let's wait one more year and see what we can get out of Kawhi and Paul George with, you know, a rotation around them that's was seemingly good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I think it's been that same kind of circle that you just described, year in, year out, for the last, what, 3 years, 3, 4 years that this core has been together.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to agree with you and say that it is time to go ahead and split those two. And when I say split those two, I'm saying trade both.
Mm-hmm. And really,
I,
the way that I see it is you don't even necessarily need to trade both, but Kawhi for sure needs to go because he's the one who seems to be least available.
I mean, I would say trade both because, like you said, both of them are getting older. And Kawhi, obviously, the more recent with the injury, but Paul George has also had his fair share of injuries. You don't have any young talent on that team. Also,
Mm-hmm.
you know that team is full of vets with like Zubac. Then you got the guy I can't remember his name right now. The point guard that carried them
Oh, Reggie
playoffs.
Jackson.
Reggie Jackson, yes, and then you got like Nicholas Batum. A bunch
Even
of
John Wall now.
yeah, it's every single one of these guys is like over 30. And like I said, you have no young talent. I believe they don't really have most of their picks. You might as well go ahead and save yourself now and try to go ahead and rebuild. Even though it would honestly kind of seem weird to me to see the Clippers like rebuilding. I don't think I've ever been like into basketball and without them being competitive. So it'll be new for me, but I think it'd be something kind of exciting to see with a new core or new young core in Los Angeles.
You see, here's the reason why I said they need to trade Kawhi is because I think what they can do is trade Kawhi immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, they can try and run it one more year with PG and some other player or set of players.
Mm.
And then if that falls apart, then from there, you break it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more so. I think PG has proven himself to be more valuable to this team succeeding as he's just been more available.
I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
Can Paul George be a true number one on a championship team? And then two, who would be the best suitor for Kawhi Leonard?
Okay. To answer the first question, I think he proved that that's the case with their playoff run where they went out against the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
I think he showed in that run that if he had a quality number 2 level player with him, they would have at least been in the finals and had a competitive finals. Now, to answer your second question, that's a bit of a tough one because what team needs a player that barely plays? And so it's almost like does anybody really need Kawhi?
I mean, I think there's definitely some teams that are willing to take a chance that are kind of like on the brink that feel that they're one superstar player away from being a real contender. I think one of those teams are like the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how the Mavericks would pull off that trade, I definitely think you're going to have to throw in like Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract. Who else could they throw in there? I mean, like you're definitely gonna have to throw in Tim Hardaway Jr. Probably Christian Wood's contract.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, they're definitely going to need to add in Christian Wood into that. And then at that point, you're gutting the team again for a player who will barely play.
Right. But hey, like I said, the Mavericks seem like a team like they're desperate to try to get Luka a real superstar next to him so that he doesn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't blame him. Like I would do anything to try to keep Luka there. I don't want to fall into the same situation though that the Rockets did with Harden, where he's basically dictating, the organization into giving up whatever they have to keep him happy, even if it's, sacrificing the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, which poison do you pick? But I could see the Mavericks trying to do something like that to where they do trade for Kawhi.
Okay. Now that I've really, really had some time to sit there and brew on it, thanks to what you said, I have brought myself down to two teams that I think could afford to take a chance on Kawhi, besides the Mavericks, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Trailblazers are a team that could do it. Now, it's less about they have the assets to trade for him and more of I think that they're a team that would be willing to take that risk on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then a team that I think actually has legitimate assets to pull this off would be the Timberwolves, which fits perfectly with what I was saying about getting rid of Cat.
I mean, I could see the Timberwolves having the assets. I just don't think they do it because I feel like they're going to look at Kawhi as he doesn't fit the same, I guess you could say, marginalized timeline that the Timberwolves are in. They're definitely more younger than Kawhi. But at the same time, if you've kind of had this same luck over and over, over and over for the last couple of years, I could also see them getting desperate and trading for Kawhi.
Oh, yeah, because the way I'm looking at it is, yes, I'm fully aware Kawhi is much older than the rest of their team. But when you really think about it, I mean, clearly this timeline is going nowhere. So what's the point of adhering to a timeline when it's just, we're going to be a barely playoff team every year? It's a great timeline to have. No, it's so I think that it would be in their best interest to do that. I think it's more likely that they don't do it just simply because they hold Cat to too high of a standard.
If the Clippers want Edwards for Kawhi, do you do it?
It depends. What team am I?
No, I said if the... Oh, well, okay. You're the Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do it?
As the Timberwolves. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Because I think that if anybody on this team is the most valuable player that needs to stay in any sort of trade scenarios, it's Anthony Edwards, because he's young and he's already really good. Mm-hmm. So I think that long-term value is just it's too high with Anthony Edwards to try and trade him for, especially for a guy like Kawhi, who's, like we've talked about, he's north of 30 years old and he is very health-wise and consistent.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I have for you. Did you have any other kind of discussion points that you wanted to bring up?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right. Well, that's going to be the end of the episode. If you like this episode, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe and comment down below. Isaiah, any last comments?
Don't forget, share the podcast with as many people as you can.
All right. We will catch you on the next episode.